As many of you may know, Republicans are fighting amongst themselves in Congress right now because they are still trying to pass their big despicable bill. And just as a reminder, this is the bill that would throw millions of people off of their Medicaid so we can give these giant tax breaks to the wealthiest among us. And this is a pretty important bill for Donald Trump because it very well might be his only chance to get most of his agenda item through in one single bill. It's very likely that Democrats take over after the midterms, and Donald Trump is probably not going to get anything done. And so because this is so important to Donald Trump, right-wing media has snapped into gear, and they've created a new mythical creature as a means to get this monstrosity across the finish line. So let's go ahead and take a look at how exactly they are trying to do that. Here's Martha MacCallum saying that, well, maybe this system wasn't designed for these types of people. If you guys do appreciate my work, please do remember to subscribe.
100%. I mean, these programs are designed, Medicaid was designed for low-income families with children, pregnant women, the elderly, people with disabilities, and people in need of long-term care. It was not designed for able-bodied people who can work and aren't working. We know that the program expanded greatly over COVID. People got used to a lot of these benefits, and they don't want to give them up now that they have had them.
And there it is. This new mythical, able-bodied male who is leeching off the government and defrauding you of your taxpayer dollars. This system was only designed for the pregnant people and the children and maybe the disabled. These other people don't belong on Medicaid. It was expanded, and we should just kick all those people off because we need to preserve the system for the pregnant people and the disabled people. That is what they are going with. But the only problem is this able-bodied male that they keep on referring to, it's all a load of shit. And we will go over that data in just a second, but we know that most people on Medicaid are already working already. And so to add more requirements like Ben Shapiro would have us do, it just would make no sense.
Because the Medicaid work requirement, again, the fact that this is controversial on any level is insane to me. Of course, if you are able-bodied and just poor, you should have to work in order to receive Medicaid. That like 80 hours a month. Again, that's 20 hours a week. That's 4 hours per workday. My kids are in school for like twice that length of time. It's ridiculous to suggest that you're entitled to Medicaid if you're unwilling to work. That's silly.
Could you be any more of a douche, Ben Shapiro? I'm glad your children, who are part of a multi-million-dollar family, have no problem making it to school on time, probably enjoying all the extracurricular activities. But what these people fail to understand is there are people in our country who are just down on their luck, who are less privileged than somebody like Ben Shapiro. And we already know that when we implement these work requirements, it just ends up kicking a whole bunch of people off the program who are eligible for the program. And then it doesn't do anything to actually further employment because most people who are on Medicaid, they're already working. As we will look at here, we know that about 65% of people who are already on Medicaid are already working full-time or part-time. And then we're going to go ahead and take a look at why other people who aren't working might still be qualified for Medicaid. So as you can see here, we've got working full-time. That accounts for 44% of the people on Medicaid, okay? Most people are working. These people normally work at low-end jobs or small firms who don't offer other health care, or they don't make enough in wages to go buy their own health insurance on the market. And so we offer Medicaid to those types of people. Fair enough, right? Okay. And then we've got another 20% who work part-time. And then we get into the people who might not be working, but we still want these people to be covered by health insurance because they are doing other things that are important to our society as well. As you can see here, we've got not working due to caregiving. That accounts for about 12% of people who are receiving Medicaid. That means if I need to go take care of my mom or my grandmother, I should be able to get some Medicaid while I'm taking care of those people because I am unable to work, though I am contributing to society in a roundabout way. So that accounts for about 12%. Then we've got not working due to illness or disability. That accounts for about 10%. And of course, we should be extending Medicaid coverage to people who are ill or disabled. As Martha MacCallum put it, that's why this system was designed in the first place. So of course, these types of people should be covered. Then we've got not working due to school attendance. So whether you're in high school, whether you're in college, maybe you're in a trade school, we want you to have health insurance as well, because you are, again, contributing to our society by getting yourself further educated. All of this makes sense, okay? So where does this able-bodied young male, where did those people actually come from? Because the only thing that makes sense on this graph is this 8% of people who are not working because they're already retired, they have an inability to find work, or another reason. We are talking about less than 10% of people who might be receiving Medicaid. They're not working because they're retired, they can't find work, or some other reason. These are the people where these young able-bodied males might reside. That is the slice of the population that these people are trying to target. It just makes absolutely no sense. They want you to believe that there are just a ton, or hundreds of thousands of able-bodied young males. They're just sitting on their mom's basement couch. They're playing video games and doing this or that, and they're out there mooching off the federal government by drawing Medicaid. That is the story that they are trying to tell you. And even Jesse Waters takes it a bit further by saying, these people are even dealing drugs out the basement window, and they can still get Medicaid too.
They keep on saying you're going to cut Medicare for these people. You know what they're doing? If you're a young, able-bodied, healthy American man, 26 years old, you don't even want to go to work, you can get on Medicaid. It's blowing a hole in the budget thanks to Barack Obama. You could live at your parents' house, play softball on the weekend, sell ecstasy on the side, not even look for a job.
I like
and you can get free health care. That's what they're doing. They're just closing that lazy loophole.
Do these people even listen to themselves? Just think about what he's saying, okay? As a general rule, people or men in their early 20s, mid 20s, maybe even late 20s, we are generally healthy. We generally do not have a need to consume Medicaid. And to think that you've got a whole bunch of able-bodied males who are sitting in the basement, they're dealing ecstasy out of the side window, and they're playing video games all day, and that is the type of person who is going to a federal office or some other office to get themselves enrolled in Medicaid? I mean, it just doesn't even make any sense. On top of that, young males, we don't really necessarily take care of ourselves that well in the first place. So it's not those types of people who are going to be consuming these types of benefit, even if they did exist. Now, these people just want to think that everybody's out there to try to pull one over. They're trying to defraud the system and this and that and this and that. It's just so fundamentally flawed. Most people are out there trying to do the best they can to live the best life that they can. And we should definitely be offering Medicaid to people who are down on their luck. We should be offering Medicaid to people who might be working but don't make enough money to go get their own health insurance. That is a huge, huge cost. Of course, we should have some sort of social safety net, some sort of health coverage that can cover these people. This should be non-controversial, but instead, the Republican bill, it's going to cut between $700 and $800 billion out of the Medicaid program, and that is going to result in at least 8.6 million people being thrown off their Medicaid. Also, they can target this mythical able-bodied young male. The math just doesn't math, guys. Even if you could point to these one-offs, maybe these red herrings of, young men sitting in their basement and they're actually on Medicare, even if those people did exist, it would be less than 1%. Probably well under 0.5%. And do we really want to go cut away a whole bunch of healthcare coverage for people who need it just because we want to target a very, very tiny slice of the population? I don't think so. I do not think that's how we should be running our country. Here's Greg Gutfeld. He's saying that it's these able-bodied males and another group of people.
I'm saying is you should be mad that they're not cutting more. In terms of cutting Medicaid, let's be honest about the Medicaid stuff. This is about able-bodied young men and illegal immigrants. So push that aside.
So now it's able-bodied young men and undocumented immigrants. Now we already We already know that able-bodied young men, they don't really consume these types of benefits often, and so we probably shouldn't need to worry about them. But when it comes to undocumented immigrants, what do we know about them? We know that they do not qualify for federal services. They do not qualify for Medicaid. And these Republicans, these conservatives, have not been able to provide any proof that there is a large problem of undocumented immigrants consuming our Medicaid system. It just does not happen. Now, the 1.4 million that they cite comes from the Congressional Budget Office report, but they weren't even talking about federal Medicaid. They were talking about state programs where states have opted to build a system for undocumented immigrants so they can have health care. And if a state wants to do that, they should be able to do that. They're not using federal dollars. So this argument that undocumented immigrants are just leeching off the Medicaid system at the federal level, it's just not true, and they can provide no evidence that it is true. It's just absolutely pathetic. Here's Hogan Gidley. He says that cutting Medicaid will actually strengthen Medicaid.
This bill does the things the American people not just voted for, but have deserved and demanded for a long time. It strengthens Medicaid by making sure 1.4 illegal aliens aren't on the program stealing from American citizens. It makes sure that able-bodied Americans, those who can work but refuse to work, also cheating from the system, are no longer covered under this, and instead the program is strengthened for the single moms, for the elderly, for the disabled, exactly what the program is designed to do.
So let me get this straight. We need to worry about all of these able-bodied young males who don't really consume Medicaid much at all. If they are, they're already working full-time or part-time, or they're going to school, or they're taking care of their parents, so that shouldn't be a big deal. And then he says 1.4 undocumented immigrants, well, they're just stealing from the Medicaid system. We know that that's not true because they cannot qualify for Medicaid. And the only other way that they might be able to use Medicaid dollars is because in our country, it is illegal for you to show up at a hospital at an emergency room and for that hospital to turn you away. So in some cases, if an undocumented immigrant shows up to the emergency room and gets treatment, the federal government might refund those dollars to make that hospital whole. But what do we know about that funding? We know that only accounts for less than 0.5% of total Medicaid spending. We're talking about 0.4%, this tiny, tiny little sliver right here of emergency Medicaid spending. So nothing that they say really holds any merit at all. This is what the Republicans do, guys. They love to demonize undocumented immigrants. They love to demonize other immigrants. Now they have turned their ire towards the lazy, able-bodied young male who are supposedly leeching off our system because that's the only way they can sell their message to their audience. They have to create a boogeyman to try to sell this disastrous bill. And it is a very disastrous bill. Not only are they cutting between $700 and $800 billion from the Medicaid program itself, which is going to result in over 8 million people getting kicked off of their health insurance, but they're also trying to implement these work requirements. And like we already said, these work requirements, they just don't work. You don't see an uptick in employment, and it just ends up kicking a whole bunch of people off the Medicaid program who are otherwise eligible for the program, but for whatever reason have been unable to prove that they are working or, being able to use the internet to go and log into the system and things like that. There's just a whole wide array of issues that these people can run into when you put up more and more hurdles to access this program. So it's just a load of shit. They just demonize other people so they can give the huge, huge tax breaks to the wealthiest Americans. That is what they are trying to do here. It is so grotesque. You're taking away some of the very rare social safety net that we see in this country. You're taking away from the least privileged among us, the people who earn the least amount of money in our society, and you're taking those programs away to give more money to the wealthy assholes who just don't need it. It is just so gross. So do not let these people continue to lie to you. This whole able-bodied young male thing, it is a red herring. It does not exist. It is not a real problem. And as we just went over the data, most people who are on Medicaid already are already working or have a very, very good reason as to why they are not working. So don't let them keep lying to you. And we should call this out every step of the way. And we need to help the American people understand that there's not just a whole bunch of people out there who are trying to steal the American taxpayer dollar. Those are red herrings. Those are one-offs. It's not a really big issue. Of course, we should always try to root that stuff out, but it's not an issue like these people say that it's an issue. So I will leave it there for now, guys. If you guys got anything out of this video, please do remember to smash that like button and subscribe. Maybe share with a friend or two. I'd very much appreciate that. We've got to build something here on the left that adequately pushes back against the right-wing media ecosystem that just launders this type of shit for the Republicans day in and day out. So if you do like what I do here, please remember to smash that subscribe button. Of course, that is free. And if you guys want to see how Bill Burr is calling out this Trump administration for their blatant inhumanity and cruelty, go ahead and watch that video on the screen now. His words are powerful. Otherwise, I'll see you guys on the next one.